Everybody, today I want to talk to you about variable contrast filters. These are two images shot from the exact same, or developed from the exact same negative. Let me show you the one on the left here, and then the one on the right. And you can see that they look a little bit different. Like if I put them side by side, and I'm going to overlap them, you can clearly see that there's some different stuff going on. This was not done by changing the exposure of the image. You can see that in this one, the sign looks very black and the area around the arrow looks a little bit lighter, so it's got a higher contrast here. And same thing with the background. The details in the clouds are gone, but also there's just more contrast between the sign and also more contrast between, again, the sky and the images. Now obviously which one is a better print, we can argue that all day long, but what I really want to just talk about is how I made these, and how sometimes this can really make your print just pop if you want to get a high contrast image like this, for example. So to do this, I use something called a variable contrast filter. Here they are, and these particular sets, they come in a box like this. By the way, they're very expensive. This box of filters cost about $40, which blows my mind sometimes, but that's just what it is. So for example, there is a number 3.5 filter, and you can see that it has a little, I don't know how easy that is to see, a 3.5 in the top left-hand corner there. And every single one of these filters has a specific number, so that's a 3. What do these numbers mean? Well, it's quite simple. So there are all these different filter numbers from 00 all the way up to 5, and as you can see, if you use them in your enlarger, 2.5, think of it this way, it's neutral. Anything from 2 to 00 decreases the contrast. That means the grays get grayer and the whites get whiter. Or the whites get grayer, the blacks get grayer. So you just see more detail, but everything becomes just more of a decreased contrast. And then if you come down this way, the whites get whiter, the blacks get blacker, you get less detail. So if I looked at these two prints, this would be a high contrast print, and this would be a lower contrast print. And again, if I put those next to each other, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Low contrast, everything's kind of gray. High contrast, you have more of a range of blacks and whites. So how do I use a filter? It's really quite simple. Well, let's say that I made my first print, and actually that's exactly what happened here. This image right here, I believe, was my first print, and I thought, well, that's kind of gray and blech. I kind of wanted to increase the contrast a little bit, so I looked at my chart again and thought, okay, so essentially it's like I didn't use a filter at all. It was a neutral to create this print. And I made a test strip for that, and just to prove it, here is my awesome, amazing test strip. So then what I did is I took out one of my handy dandy filters, and I thought to myself, well, which one of these do I want to use? That print was kind of gray, so I decided to go down to a 3.5 filter. So I found the 3.5 filter over here, and I'm going to put this in my enlarger in just a second. I'll show you what happened. And once I put it in the enlarger, just so you know, you have to make another test strip, because the exposure time is going to change every single time you make a filter. So I'm obviously not in the darkroom, but just to show you where the filter fits, so here's a handy dandy enlarger right here, Bethler 23C, and where that little sign is right there, you just flip this up. Make sure your enlarger is off when you flip this up, otherwise you're going to expose everybody's paper. Take the filter, put it in the enlarger like so, close it up, and then you would go ahead and make another test strip. Usually I find the exposure time increases considerably, and then of course once you have your test strip made, you make your final print. Don't forget to take the filter out when you are done with it, because these are very expensive, as I said, and it can also mess up other people's images afterwards. So of course you're going to take that and put that back in the box right here. But just to show you, I ended up making 3 prints total. You haven't seen them all, and every single one of them had its own test strip. So I'm just going to lay them on top of each other like this. You can really see the difference between them. But I believe that was my neutral print. This was a print at 3.5, and this was a print with a 5 filter. And I have to say, I really like that number 5 filter. I'm glad I did 3. So making a perfect print is not just about just going into the darkroom, using the test strip. Sometimes you have to spend a little bit more time messing with all the controls to get what it is that you want to get. So one of the things that you should start thinking about is using a variable contrast filter.